one of my main interests is jealousy in relationships. And a lot of people write to me about their experiences of jealousy in relationships, a lot of guys. And several years ago, I started recommending your book because I saw nice guy tendencies in so many of these male jealousy sufferers. Has that come up for you in your practice, in your therapy practice? Do you see a connection between jealousy in relationships and this nice guy syndrome? Because I certainly do.
Yeah, and let me kind of spread that out a little bit. Um, and I'm kind of talking now in a language more of kind of the David Data and John Wyden language of masculine, feminine. I believe jealousy is a feminine trait, um, and I believe it's actually a it can serve a purpose, but at the same time, I think it's actually a relatively new trait in human existence, and I'll tell you why. And goes back to the tribal part. The feminine is Data and Wineland and describe it. The feminine in us, in men and women, is what craves connection and the flow of love. And the masculine is what seeks mastery and basic. So basically, the masculine does, feminine is done too. Feminine is receptive, masculine's doing. And we all have a masculine and feminine side. And because it's the feminine side that craves the connection and flow of love, it's the feminine side in us that fears that going away or fears, we won't be good enough. And so, because nice guys often spend a lot of their emotional time in their feminine side of seeking approval, seeking validation. Those are all feminine traits. When the masculine is self-validating by taking action, especially by taking the action that is challenging or frightening or that we've been putting off and avoiding doing. So this feminine trait, and here's what's strange, or I don't know, strange, but like in nice guys where I tend to see it, and it's not a functional response because I tend to see the jealousy in nice guys in two manifestations. One is being jealous about a woman's past. It's like, oh, how many men has she been with? Or, were they better than him? But she's not with those guys. And I tell guys, for example, I'm going to be a little crass here. For me, I like getting with a woman, for example, that knows how to give a good blowjob. And for that to be true, she's had some practice before she met me. And you know what? I'm grateful for all the practice she had before she got to be with me. It's not like, oh, how many men has she done this to before me? Am I just one of, that is really that kind of jealousy does not serve anybody well, of focusing on a person's past and then feeling inadequate or that it's a precursor of something down the road. The other way that I see the jealousy tend to show up is in the nice guy just projecting that the woman is going to cheat on him. I mean, jealousy would be a healthy response if your partner is doing things where their sexual energy is going outside, I call it the container that the two of you have created, especially if you're in a monogamous relationship, that you have at least an implicit, but hopefully explicit agreement that you both keep all of your sexual energy within the container. And I'm really rigid about what that means. That means no fantasy, no porn, no flirting, no clandestine conversations, no secrets on Facebook. Everything stays in the container with your partner. Number one, then we don't have to worry about what's going on outside. We don't have to have anything hidden. We don't have to have secrets. But then the energy inside the container becomes really a pressure cooker. It really gets heated and exciting inside when everything is kept inside. When sexual energy seeps out of the container, it robs the relationship of sexual passion, of a nastiness, of an intensity. So I believe that men and women should require their partners say, I want you to keep all of your sexual energy within the container. Now, to me, that's a little different than jealousy. Jealousy is probably a response when you see your partner is putting it out and refuse to address it or deal with it. And personally, I would not live with a person who is sending sexual energy outside the container if we have an agreement of a monogamous relationship. I would say, hey, no, keep it in here. And if they didn't, that's not jealousy, that's a boundary. And if they didn't, I would say, if you can't do it this way, you don't get to be with me. Okay. And I would lead in that way. Now, but the jealousy is usually where maybe the person is sending a lot of energy, but the person's not willing to set a boundary. The partner's not willing to set a boundary, saying, this has to stop. Or they're projecting all the abandonments of their past on that person and assuming they're going to abandon them as well. And the thing that I've found is that every person who has big abandonment issues in which they project onto their partner is going to get abandoned. And almost always their partner's going to cheat on them. There is some kind of energetic manifestation when you're living day to day expecting your partner to cheat on you. I almost guarantee they will. And I can't say it's because of this or that. I don't know I can nail it down, but whatever we live in fear of is probably going to happen. Now, my belief and theory is we go back more than 10,000 years back to our tribal times where we existed for about 1.5 million years. My belief is there's pretty good evidence that sex was communal within the tribe. And Mother Nature is the best model for Mother Nature. A lot of penises went into, a lot of vaginas, and then a lot of men took ownership of the offspring and provided and protected. I think it worked pretty well. There's pretty good evidence that that's how it existed. It's only been about 10,000 years that we've had more of an ownership model of partners and of sex. As we started owning land and trees and cows and dogs and wives and children, we're kind of in the patriarchy. This is built around this ownership model. That's where I think jealousy came in. I doubt it existed before then. There might have been envy that I want. I want what that person wants, but it's not like you're being deprived of anything because it was so communal in the tribe. So I think jealousy is kind of a later thing, directly tied in to the ownership model of relationship. And now one other note about jealousy, it is also a powerful aphrodisiac. And if you can actually play with it in conscious ways within that container. My wife has extreme fears of being cheated on, but she can tell me the nastiest stories of me having sex with other people while she and I are being sexual because it's within the container. So you can actually play with that. And face your fears and increase sexual intensity if you want to use it very consciously. But it can be really toxic when it's being unconsciously projected.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Have you read Sex at Dawn by Chris Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that fills in a lot of blanks that a lot of other evolutionary psychology and social biology misses the mark. I think a lot of the other writers tend to look at the things humans do and then find explanations of them based on how we've been for 10,000 years, rather than how we were for 1.5 million years, and even longer, counting what we were before we evolved into humans. I think tribes existed because they were communal, and so yeah, this thing of ownership of partners and sex is really, really recent in our human evolution. And even a romantic view of love probably has only been around for about 200 years. It was economic before that. And as I've heard that Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet to show how stupid romantic love was. And even the idea of dating and courtship has probably only existed for less than 100 years in Western culture and still doesn't exist in Eastern culture. Marriages are still arranged in many Eastern cultures. So yeah, what we tend to believe is normal relationship behavior is nothing like what's actually programmed into our DNA through millions of years of evolution.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at how long human beings have been around and how long some of these institutions and practices have been around, it's a blip of a blip of a blip. I mean, it's
yes.
Nothing. No wonder we haven't figured these things out. No wonder so many of us are struggling so much. It's like, yeah, absolutely. I remember when I discovered how new like romantic marriage was, and my jaw hit the floor, because I'm a history guy. I always look back at the history of things and where they come from, and it's like I think that our modern romantic sexual dating confusion makes a lot more sense when you look at it in the grand historical picture. Yeah, because we have not been at this stuff for very long.